Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, May 16th, 2022. I am your host, Tristan. Hello. Sorry about last week. I'll talk about that in a little bit when I get me on here. But hello. Hello, friends. It's so nice to see you all again. Let's see who we got visiting today. We got Leah. Nice. We got Riki, Pim. Always nice to see you. Mob Dwez. 320 Orton Edge 32. All right. Black Stag, Nightcrawler 886. Praise the Sun. Jennifer loves Screw It. Always nice to see you, Jen. Ted Roberts, nice. Ray Kalon, Orange Mon. Good. We got a couple questions from you. Let's see. Alexis0733. Nice. My step back shirt got in last week and it was great. Hoping it'll convert some friends. That's awesome. Yeah, I noticed that so few people buy step back shirts that I get an individual email every time somebody buys one. And I was just like, because I think there's like maybe, I want to say that there's probably like 5 or 6 step back shirts out in the wild that were not purchased by me or members of my family and or my friends. And like a good chunk of them, my mom bought me a bunch of step back onesies for my son, who is now just old enough to wear them. So you're part of a very small elite group of people who have step back shirts. And because of that, I got $2. So thank you. Yeah, should probably get started. Hi, everybody. My name's Tristan Johnson. I'm the host of Step Back History. I'm also a co-host of the podcast It's Probably Not Aliens. You can find both those projects at stepbackhistory.com and provsnotaliens.com. One is a podcast about ancient astronaut theories. The other one is a YouTube channel about history and the past and why it's sad. I stream Mondays at noon, and every other week I get Mia Mulder on the horn, so that's all super duper fun. I just realized that I'm probably didn't set up the stream correctly, right? Like, what is the stream on YouTube right now called? Yes, okay, it's titled 02 when it should be 16. There we go. I'll fix that. There we go. All good. All solved. Probably should fix that on Twitch too, eh? I like how I am on top of things, and I'm good at this thing that I do for job. There we go. I should really just get rid of the thing altogether, but you know, that's it. To be fair, it's probably not aliens about history. It's about why history is sad too. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. I go by he, him pronouns, and you can find my work at Patreon. You can support my work by going to patreon.com/stepbackhistory and supporting me for as little as 84 cents a month with the yearly subscription. You could help for free if you have Amazon Prime. You get 1 free Twitch Prime subscription. If you were to toss that my way, I'd be very grateful. And also, if you do have a little bit of money hanging around, super chats, bits, Twitch subscriptions, all of those, very welcome, and they do help keep me doing this job. My latest video is on the Oklahoma City bombing. People seem to be liking it. My next video is going to be on Russia. That should be coming out, I don't know when. I'm still working on the script, and it's going to be a big one. I'm trying to get almost 10,000 words. It's almost turning into a 10,000 word script. So that's going to be fun. And yes, here is a link if you want to submit questions to the stream. We don't have a ton of questions today. So that means that if you submit a question today, I might dip into the barrel to get anything, because I think we only have... Yeah, we only have 3 questions for today, so I doubt that's going to get us through the full 2 hours. And last, of course, before we get started, new people. Hi, new people. If this is your first time watching the stream, please make yourself known in the chat because we've got some pretty awesome people who love to, who are very supportive, and we have a really cool community. And now that I am, like, back from a several month-long hiatus, I kind of have to rebuild the standing. So please, everybody, love, cherish. Things are great. Okay. I think that is everything. So let's get Mia in here.
Hello.
Hello.
Everything's so quiet. Hold on, see if I can boost my own volume. Why am I so low down?
It's because of the crop. Let me fix the crop.
I don't think it's because of the crop. I think I'm just very low today. Hold on, let me fix that. Let's see if we can rotate PDF live on camera.
Yep.
There we go. Hi, Tristan.
Hello. There we go. I can rotate PDF too. So I can just center yourself in the frame. There we go. Okay, that's much better. All right. Hello, friends. Hello, Mia. Mia is the true star of the channel. That is true.
I don't know about that. It's probably Phoebe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. Last week, we hired a babysitter so that I could get a little bit of step back work done. But there was and it was nice out, and the door left open, and the Romeo got out and disappeared for 3 days.
Oh no.
But he's back. He was basically just hanging out in the bushes beside our house for 3 days.
As cats are wont to do.
Yeah, but it does mean that now Phoebe and Romeo have collars. And they have like little bells on them and stuff like that. And they are both very, very fetching in their collars. So that is the new update.
That's good. That's good. I support cat fashion.
Yeah, so who are you and what are you doing here?
God, I don't know anymore. My name is Mulder. I'm a YouTuber. My pronouns are she, her. And I do the content. And I'm also making a video on Russia. Actually, completely like unplanned. We're both making a video on Russia. How the fuck is your script reaching 10,000 words though?
Let's just
like,
say
what the fuck?
Okay, so my video is just basically a history of Russia. And then I was like, hey, since there's like already like 10,000 history of Russia videos on YouTube, I decided to be like, I'm just going to narrow it down and do my like history of Russia is like history of the Russian Federation. So it starts with Russia. And I was like, that should be fine. Then I wrote the like sort of like necessary background on the collapse of the Soviet Union section to sort of be the prologue, and it was almost 1,400 words. So, and then then I wrote basically the like I'm working right now on sort of the mini bio of Vladimir Putin, and that is also over 1,000 words. So that's how.
Less.
And I haven't even done the
You're
section.
Just straight up writing a history book at this point.
Yeah, I haven't even done the section where I'm collaborating with John the Duncan to talk about shock therapy and privatization and how the Soviet Union was basically scrapped for parts. And then I got 2 Chechenian wars. I've got Georgia, and then somehow got to do the United States and NATO. And then after all of that, then I have to explain everything with Ukraine. So that's how you get to 10,000 words.
That's how you get to it.
So like that's
See, I just do simple shit like read the entire work of Russian mathematicians. That's how you do it.
I should have done that.
It's easier.
The only thing that will possibly be longer is that next year I plan on making a conspiracy video. Specifically, I am going to make a video about the conspiracy theory that Lee Harvey Oswald shot John F. Kennedy for November of 2023. And it is probably going to be super long because that's like the most elaborate conspiracy movement of all time.
Wait, who? Who did you say?
Lee Harvey Oswald. My conspiracy theory is that Lee Harvey Oswald and not a secret government cabal killed John F. Kennedy.
Oh yeah. Well, that's just bonkers, isn't it?
So that's gonna be the fun thing. So I also have to apologize to the audience about not streaming last week. I was in a meeting that now has come to fruition. I can say that we are now part of the same podcast family, because It's Probably Not Aliens is now on nebula.app.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Nice!
We did the whole transfer this week, so now we are part of the same podcast network. Is that what it is? Is that a network?
I don't fucking know.
So that's...
If you figure out how to get them to sponsor, like to get sponsor slots on, let us know, because we've been trying.
Oh boy. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I haven't done podcast advertising. We'll see what happens. But that's the beginning but now we're family again.
Good. Very good.
Yeah, and what's it called? We got an offer from iHeartRadio that we turned down for it, so
Standard better fucking do it. They better they better realize what the options were.
Oh, somebody in the chat pointed out correctly that it was Bernard Sanders who shot JFK. Yes, yes, of course.
I haven't seen a conspiracy theory that's actually the case.
It's
that's not even as a joke conspiracy.
Oh wow, I thought that was just Robert Evans's weird joke. You could have been on Behind the Bastards.
Bernie Sanders?
He would have been I think he would have been
yeah, in his early 20s. Yeah.
You could have been on Behind the Bastards or something. Listen, in the podcast, the genre of podcast that Robert Evans and I both occupy, Robert plays and I play the person who did all the research and not the person who does all the fun riffing. Can you imagine a podcast where you had two of the people who do the research? I feel like that would be unnatural. It's not how God intended podcasts to work.
The balance would be completely off.
It's true. I don't know. And I am, and also
just like politics need a left wing and a right wing.
Plus, there's also another thing, which is that
yeah.
I am basically a Diet Coke version of Robert Evans, and so the two of us on a podcast together would be mixing Coke and Diet Coke together. Yeah, you could do it, but what would be the point? You're not even getting the sugar.
I get that.
So
I relate to that because I'm basically Diet Abigail Thorne, and whenever I've done anything with Abby, it's fun, it's great, but it is mixing normal Coke and Diet Coke together to the point where it's just I don't get it.
Yes, we are both of us distinct B tier on the B tier on the YouTube.
Listen, it works.
Or what's it called? Or as I'm learning from every bread tube tier list, I don't exist.
Same. I just I've chosen to believe now that the people who make those lists are either people who watch video essayists who don't get into politics, people who talk about my bad job experience or the horrifying reality about Disneyland's mukbang adventure or some shit like that. Power to them, but it's different stuff than what we do, I feel like. And a lot of those tier lists get there, or it's people making tier lists based on pure drama content, just pure debate drama content.
Yeah, or now
which we all do.
Now there is there are two definition things that I'm starting to notice, which is one, to a certain type of Zoomer, a podcast is a type of YouTube video.
Yeah.
The idea, like, I feel like that there's almost like a generational gap that happened where they didn't learn that podcasts are MP3s that you download on your phone and listen to. But the next one is, I think that a lot of these tier list makers think that breadtubers are Twitch streamers.
Yes. Oh, for sure. It's Twitch streamers that you don't like. That's why I think we never get to be on the list, because we're generally inoffensive to everyone.
Yeah, everyone likes us. Don't look at
everyone just loves us, and yeah.
Yeah. So breadtube is now a noun, and the definition is a left-wing content creator you don't like.
Yeah.
Just like how in America, socialism's definition is bad thing that you don't like.
Yeah. Christ. It gets a little annoying though whenever I hear whenever people talk about like content creators that they like, and they never mention us. Because I don't think they even see us as content creators, even though they'll be huge fans of our content, but they just don't mention us in like the landscape of sort of like political lefty video essays, because I think we inhabit the international section of the store.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Either that, or in many ways, I think I'm listed upon more with History YouTube, which is a collection of weird reactionary YouTubers who all hate me. So.
Which honestly is preferred. Surely.
Yeah, I will say that like History YouTube has its own Slack, and I think like basically everybody on there hates me.
Oh,
I'm
no.
Pretty sure. I think the only like history YouTuber who doesn't hate me is Mr. Beat.
Fair. I mean, is there any history YouTuber that like is also like someone with reasonable opinions? Every history YouTuber that I've encountered, except for you and like maybe one more, has always been like at best some sort of like pseudo-fascist.
What about What If Alt Hist? That's a name I've heard recently.
I don't know, I listen. I don't know enough about these people. I hang out in the lefty trans women space, which is much more fun.
That is a much more, it's much more sad but fun. It's good. The posts are better.
Yeah, the posting is great. God, you tweeted the best thing like 2 months ago or some shit, where you said that the only biological advantage trans women have is in competitive posting.
Yeah.
That I'm never gonna forget about that tweet. That's one of the Tristan top 10
top
tweets.
10 tweets.
No.
Oh my goodness. I'm just putting together. I'm collecting some questions. Some people submitted some stuff. But the first question I do have for today, because we do very occasionally answer questions on this podcast.
We try to.
It's true.
And fail.
The rumors are true. What is your favorite podcasting moment? Since now we are both YouTubers turned podcasters. So how have you enjoyed podcasting so far? Oh no, did your headphones die again?
No, I'm here. I'm thinking. I like podcasting. I think podcasting is... I do see it as very, very different from the type of work I do normally. And like I think that I hit my stride in YouTube videos. I think that that's where I sort of like hanging out the most. And I like podcasting too, right? But it's just very different generally. I'm also just like completely asocial, and I co-host the podcast that I am on, and I am like an asocial wreck. So I think I think it just that adds like an element of stress, but at the same time that also adds like a level of like excitement and depth because you get to like explore like interesting topics in a way you don't get to do when you do it on yourself. So, yeah. But I think that like when I want to take my mega mind pill and sort of drift into work rather, I think that I still think that I prefer my YouTube videos.
Oh man, this is gonna be awkward because I feel the exact opposite. I'm learning that I actually am prefer. I think I'm learning that I like collaborative work more than I like working on my own. And so because I get to co-host the podcast, it feels like I'm much more energetic. But that's because I am definitely an extroverted person who gets a little wiry if I have to spend too much time by myself. So yeah, I'm actually a fan of working with somebody. I also there's a special joy, and I don't think you get to experience the same joy as I do, which is that the way that our podcast works behind the scenes is that once I do all the reading and research, and then I go and perform the show. And then after the show's recorded, my work on that episode is done. And Scott goes into the Adobe Edition and makes it all pretty. And that's like the part.
Yeah, I feel like you get to sort of live in the history bullshitty research moment.
The other thing too is that Step Back got me so like typecasted as like sad and politically SRS stuff that I cannot, like, I can do a goofy episode of It's Probably Not Aliens in a way that I couldn't do one for Step Back. Like right now I'm working on an episode about David Icke, and I mean that's gonna get, because he's basically a Nazi, but it does get into. But it's just like, oh yeah, this is the guy who became a semi-famous football commentator who then announced on television that he was the son of God and that the world was going to end in 1997.
I get it.
I love it. This is life now. Also, yeah,
I mean, I relate to the being son of God. I relate to that.
Oh yeah. I would like to see Goofy Step Back. I have made Goofy Step Back early on and nobody watched it. That was the problem. Anyways, this is good. But yeah, podcasting moments are tough. I like when we have guests. Those are fun.
Yo.
Okay.
I think there are some moments in like Leechfest podcasting where I think I understand a concept and I realize like mid recording that I do not know anything about like biology or like medical science. And I do like those moments too, though. Like the moments where you get to learn stuff, because the way we do it on Leechfest is like, instead of having one person just the research and one person like goofing off, we alternate. Like I do the history and my co-host does the medical part, so we both get to be the uneducated goof.
Nice, hand off. I also love riffing. Like, I think my favorite thing about podcasting, and I am bad at this in like YouTube videos, but you know how there's like people who can make YouTube videos where they can just establish a thing and it just becomes a meme, like plant.
Well,
I have not been able to make a plant type meme. But Scott makes about 6 of those a day. And he can turn basically anything into something that people make fan art of.
That's good. That's talent.
Yes. That is the secret sauce. That's how he gets I don't know, he's got like 600,000 subscribers on YouTube or something. Something absolutely wild.
Something inhuman, yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Okay, the next question we got here comes from Matt Lipton. And that is, How come more discussion about how union leadership is often centrist and anti-leftist? Obviously, it's better to have a union than no union, but I find it weird more left-wing people haven't been discussing stuff like how here in Canada, union reps who haven't worked a shop floor in years will try to stomp down activists trying to push progressive policies at NDP conventions. So how does this work in Svithjod?
Very differently. I was about to say this. Like, this sounds like a North American problem.
It very much is, yes.
Yeah, here the union leaders are, at least in my experience, like solidly social democrat, forever, like diehard to the death, essentially. Except for dock workers, because dock workers are always communists across history for some reason. But like I can see like how this will happen. Because like if you don't have like a very strong like established union culture, I can definitely see how it can sort of be easily co-opted as like a basic popularity contest. Mm-hmm. But here, Sweden has such a strong union culture that like we don't have a minimum wage, for example, because our unions just like we don't need it because our union contracts are stronger than anything that like corporations could sort of force upon workers. So there's like a bunch of rules and regulations and like there's a framework for how a union like operates internally. But if that doesn't exist in many places, I feel like it can easily just become a popularity contest in which, you know, like manager type people with a lot of like social cachet easily find their way to the top, and then nothing really happens anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine always goes to the Nevada primary, where the sort of hospitality union in Las Vegas, which you can imagine is pretty powerful, refused to endorse a candidate, and then also sent literature to their union membership about the dangers of public health care. And this speaks a lot to why in North America unions are like the way they are. Because the way that they framed it was that if America got public health care, then that means that benefits, like health benefits, health insurance that they fought so hard for would be taken away. They would lose things that they bargained for for their health insurance, by health insurance being available to everyone.
Yeah.
Because in America, if you do have good health insurance, you have like, luxury health insurance where they put like, they make you do like procedures that you don't even need and like all sorts of stuff. But still, like,
it's very efficient. Capitalism is great at allocating resources to those who need it.
Yes. So what happens is that in a lot of societies like Canada, like the US, where they put explicit effort, including like violence and, using the police, and in Canada's case, explicitly making a federal police that was designed for putting down strikes, like an anti-union government. Like, I think the U.S. has the most violent labor history of all countries.
Yeah. Maybe a second step to the Imperial Russia, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
that might be the only exception. Mm-hmm. In an alternate history world, we live under a Russian-dominated NATO, opposed to the Socialist Republic of the United States.
Oh goodness. So here's what happened is that as like one of the responses to the Great Depression and sort of like a lot of issues to do with labor was this sort of Rooseveltian approach, which was to make a lot of conciliations, to make unions very strong, to make a lot of solid benefits and those kinds of things, but not giving up the capitalism. Oh, look, Romeo, or I can't show you guys, but Romeo is actually in the room with me.
Well,
I can hear because his collar has a bell on it. So what happens is that not so much that like unions become anti-left, because our unions are still fairly like our unions still tend to support like our version of social democrats, which are like, you know, diet social democrats compared to Swedish social democrats. Like you know, being like,
and I mean, even Swedish Social Democrats at this point are diet versions of themselves. So
yeah, they're sort of like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to pay to go to the dentist, which Canadians still do.
We do that here too.
Okay.
I think everywhere in the world, people still pay for luxury bones.
Yeah, all right, fair.
For some unknown reason, luxury bones.
Canada's got a weird thing where we have a public medical system in everything except drugs. And so you have to pay for your prescriptions, but nothing else.
Hold on. What? Why? How?
I wish I knew. It's a
I'm
lot
learning now. What the hell?
It's a lot cheaper than America, but it is still far more expensive. Far more expensive in that it costs anything than a lot of, like, you know, countries that have actual healthcare systems.
That's so weird.
It is. It is. And that's why pharmacare is still like a contentious election issue. And we're having one right now, so that's a thing that is coming up. But anyways, what happens is that a lot of unions do not see themselves as part of a greater movement, and more turn into like folk. I was about to say situationists, but that has an actual real word thing about it. But they turn into organizations that move away from greater implications and almost focus exclusively on the things that they have at the moment. And so their leadership explicitly tries to keep away from leftist politics, because then that means the police can get involved, and that means that like oppression can happen. And they are just like, no, I like the union because I like to organize for benefit. And that is all. And so you end up with like, yeah, the like liberals entering the system, and then you end up with, yeah, we can't have public healthcare because then the healthcare benefits that we bargained for would go away. Or we'd have to renegotiate our healthcare benefits and we'll lose those. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
that's bad.
There's like less of a like an ideological connection to it. Mm-hmm. Because like every single union as far as I know, like in Sweden is sort of connected to a political party, and is sort of like seen as, yeah, like this like connect with other unions to really form this sort of like nationwide sort of struggle for all workers.
Yeah.
Even if every union does everything for itself. Again, like that's also like why we don't have a minimum wage.
It's very much why I'm like, it's very telling because I'm wearing this shirt today. But there's another thing too, and I'm curious about what it's like in Sweden here. So Swedish unions, what do they tend to be like? What kind of unions are there? Like, how are they organized in a greater sense? Like, for example, like, do you have like the dock workers union and like the hospitality union, or like things like that, or do you have it like
kinda? I know that we have like heavy industrial worker union, which is like EF Metall, which is like steel workers union originally, but now is for a lot of things. We have everything for like, so for everything, we have a union for like everyone who works in government. It's called for like local government, at least kommunal. And then we have like for all service employees, like if you work in service, that is the union. And then there are like other unions like for other things that like don't get caught up in other things. But most unions, like the service union, for example, they cover, at this point, like they cover so many things that aren't technically service, but like it doesn't fall under any of the umbrellas of the other bigger ones. So they hang out over there.
So this is where things get interesting because Canada's got something similar. Like the last union I belonged to was the Public Services Alliance of Canada, otherwise known as PSAC. I was a union steward. It was, I would say it was fun, but if you've ever actually been a union steward, you know that it is just the pettiest drama and the dumbest politics. Especially because it was a university one, and the engineering students who had to join but didn't want to join actively had their union stewards try to sabotage the union. Which, that was fun. Anyways.
I should also mention that, like, in the Swedish system, a lot of the unions are also organized together in a bigger union, like a union. And which also, like, collectively, like, it does things against against everyone else, essentially, like the employers' union that they call themselves.
Now, if I remember correctly, in the U.S., their union structure is that they have lots of small unions, and you might not even have everybody in the same workplace be in the same union. And the U.S. has specific places like laws that are called right-to-work laws that are in most of the states, where when you join a workplace, you can choose to not join the union. So they are a lot weaker, and in many ways, unions spend all of their energy just fighting to lose their benefits at a slower rate.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it one thing, like a thing with both Amazon and Starbucks now, where like each individual, like like one store can have like its own union of like 5 to 10 people.
Yes.
Like a micro union. Which is great, don't get me wrong, but like in the large scale of things, that's nothing.
Yes, and in the future, of all hope, is that we will all join one union, an international workers of the world type situation, world domination, anarcho-syndicalism, such. It is interesting because the U.S. actually does have a radical labor history. It's just that it got violently snuffed out.
Got a really bad deal too. Like, so much potential in like the late 1800s, and then, I guess then the New Deal happened.
Yeah, the New Deal did make you, like, in many ways, this is the hard part, is that the New Deal legitimately saved a lot of lives and increased people's living standards. In a lot of ways, it was a liberal capitulation and giving a lot of ground to labor so that they would not, it's basically proof that accelerationism has merit to some extent, because basically things got better and then the people didn't agitate for the revolution, is what FDR was afraid of, basically.
Yeah. It was like a bribe.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
Which is weird because, like, in some cases when that happens, like with the Shah of Iran, when he gave away a bunch of stuff, the protesters just smelled blood and they're like, oh, if they're going to give up that, then we can get a whole lot more. But we didn't do that.
That's actually like a lot of like very left-wing people in Sweden hate the Social Democrats for giving us the People's Home, because it was so close to like almost like some sort of workers like nation, so close but not really there, and that, you know, it works to snuff out the the revolutionary fervor, almost.
Yeah, someone was just pointing out that, like, in America, you've got the Merchant Marine Union, the Crane Operator Union, the Electrician Union, the Pipe Fitters Union. So, like, your average construction site might have people who are in, like, 4 or 5 different unions at the same site.
These are too many unions.
And it's like,
is that why? Oh, shit. That explains so many fucking jokes from media. This is how I interact with American culture.
It's how we all do. That's how soft power do.
Exactly. That explains so much, because I keep hearing about like one part, like a Brooklyn Nine-Nine or whatever, where like the cops have like the cop union, and they can't clean up their fucking like workspace because that belongs to like the sanitation union, and they have to do that because of their deals. It's that doesn't. I get why, but holy shit.
But that's why the American labor movement is so weak. And Canada, and on top of the fact that the U.S. has just like shockingly low union membership. Like, my wife's a U.S. immigrant, and when she found out that she was part of a union by becoming a teaching assistant here, she was like, "That's a joke, right? Like unions aren't a real thing." And then it's like, "Oh no,
unions aren't real."
And that was like, yeah, Public Services Alliance, PSAC, as we called it. In Hollywood alone, you got ISTSE, the Writers Guild, the Actors Guild, the Directors Guild, and Canadian equivalents like ACTRA. Yeah, that's why we're so weak for doing things. And also, as some people also mentioned, is that unions, some of the bigger, more powerful unions, have become institutions in and of themselves, and the people who manage and run it are not even workers in the same field anymore, which means that they sometimes are like, what's that term that I can't remember if it's problematic or not? Professional managerial class, where they become.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It becomes like people who aren't connected to the actual thing, and they have the benefits and everything like that because they're not employees for the company; they're employees for the union, and they then make decisions that are trying to de-radicalize anything because that's that. More unions is good. No, more unions, more rights. So here's the thing: more unions, not good. Lesser, bigger unions, good. The ideal amount of unions that would exist on Earth is one, called the industrial workers of the world.
But it should be gigantic.
But it should be gigantic, yes. Every single person who works should be a member of it. Actually, just every single person.
Just around, yeah.
Yeah. But that is, yeah, it should just be, instead of the government, we would have the union. That would be the trick. Maybe like a council union? What's the Russian word for council? I think it's Soviet?
No one knows. It's impossible to know. But Tristan, if we just have one big union, isn't that just a government? God, I felt like such a shithead by saying that.
Someone's just going to email you, do you want to write an article for The Atlantic?
I'm gonna get that like any day now. Bro, can I tell you something completely unrelated that this just reminded me about? Holy shit, okay. So, war in Ukraine breaks out, right?
I've heard rumors,
happened, yes. We know about it. The days after, I got contacted on Instagram by two people, because that's the only way that's like one of the few ways people can like send me a DM like directly. Two people from Russia contacting me like, hey, would you be interested in sort of like writing and publishing articles like on your like Western media channels with like direction from us? And I never replied.
Would you like to make Russian propaganda for us?
For real? Like, honestly, two separate people. Like, it's like, would you be interested in like distributing propaganda about war? So speaking of nothing, like this can happen once you get over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Apparently people start thinking you can be a propagandist. I assume maybe because I was also skeptical to NATO on Twitter, so people like I don't know.
So it's like the Russia side equivalent of like not being able to tell that two things can be bad. So it's like, oh, this person criticized NATO. They must love Russia. And then the two people are thinking the same thing. It's just one is like a bad thing and one is a good thing.
Yeah.
So I did hear that the Finlanders are joining NATO.
They are, and we are too, almost guaranteed. They're voting on it today, actually. Hold on, let me check the news. They may have decided to do it like right now. Yes. Man, yes, the second the stream started, the news broke that Sweden is going to apply. So we are applying. Jeez. And we are going to apply together with Finland as a sort of like Scandinavia asking hello.
That's like
So yeah.
that is wild. That's up there with that's such like a break in neutrality. That's like if like Switzerland joined NATO.
Well, like some people will argue that that Sweden's like neutrality has already sort of faltered a little bit just by joining the European Union. Um, which not like not quite because it's not like a full military alliance. Um, and then there are a bunch of shitheads in Sweden who say like if like they only either you join NATO or you support Russia, which is like sure that's how logic works.
Yeah. People
I
also
guess.
question
So,
Switzerland's neutrality after they hoarded all of that Nazi gold.
yeah. Um. So it's chaotic. It's weird. Um. But yeah, like officially, yeah, like Sweden's alliance freedom, which is how we refer to it, is dead now. It's gone. We have simply chosen to not have it anymore.
Yeah, as I
Which
mentioned, you guys
sucks.
can now hook up the electrodes to Olaf Palme and power the country off of him spinning around like a turbine.
I know, and the thing. Okay, I need to rant for a little bit because like I am part of the only party that that is like skeptical to NATO. Like we're like I think the party is even like full on like does not want to join NATO. The only party in the parliament that's like against it. And the thing is, at the last election, NATO was not a question for the parties, and even if it was, the standing opinion, the standing policy of the parties that formed the governments, their opinion was that they would not join NATO. Like they want to preserve like alliance freedom. But fuck that, I guess. So like fuck democracy, I guess, because the party can just decide to do a complete 180 and like screw over its own voter base who voted for them on like other pretenses. So that's fucking annoying.
On the plus side,
I love democracy.
you get to enjoy.
I love the republic.
The plus side, though, you get to be an American lapdog like we have been for our entire existence.
And wait, we're gonna. I know that we're gonna try to have like exemptions so we don't have nuclear weapons in Sweden because fuck that, and not have American like bases or like NATO bases in Sweden. Like we're just part of like protection and that's it. We say that now. That's what Norway said too. And now, in the near future, Norway is going to allow like, more military bases and maybe something more. I'm losing my mind. I hate everything. And do you know the thing that really grinds my gears? Sorry that I'm ranting a little bit here.
It's all good.
Turkey's like strongman Erdogan fucking hates the Kurds, right? Uses his military to basically bomb Kurdish villages, right? Sweden has been like fairly neutral in this conflict, which has been pretty good for a lot of like Kurdish like refugees and like for a large Kurdish diaspora. And Sweden has a significant like Kurdish diaspora in it. Erdogan is like, I don't really like Sweden because we have a lot of like refugees, like Kurdish refugees who are wanted by the Turkish state. And in the follow-up of the decision to join NATO, a lot of like top social democratic politicians have now been like, well, now, the PKK are actually terrorists, and maybe we should deport some of the Kurdish like terrorists for things that aren't crimes here. So like they're already throwing them under the bus to like appease NATO members.
This is what alliance freedom was supposed to get you, right?
Yeah, we were supposed to be able to sort of like criticize people, and now apparently we can't because we have to like suck Erdogan's dick.
Now, this is why I'm like...
I'm so angry.
Yeah, I am so nervous about this, like, this next thing where it's going to be like... because people can't conceive... The jingoism is going so hard that when I try to make a video where I talk about how two things can both be bad, that it's just going to this is the first time where I've made content where I'm like, I actually think I might like get taken off of YouTube for it, because to say that Russia unilaterally invading a sovereign country over some like bullshit claims of historical territory or whatever is bad, but that also maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't be like making goo eyes at the fucking Azov battalion. Maybe, just maybe we shouldn't. Maybe maybe it's bad that Russia is invading a country. Maybe it's also bad that the same country posted a video on Twitter of their official home guard dipping their bullets in pork fat because they were going to be fighting what they called orcs, which is a slur that Ukrainians are using for Russian Muslim troops. And I don't know, there's this weird thing that like dipping bullets in pig fat or pig blood is supposed to specifically be a slight against Islam.
Yeah. Under some like weird idea that is going to send them to hell, which is like not how Islam works.
No, but it just might be that both of those can be true. Is that? But it seems like that's not.
Yeah.
But it does seem like it is possibly a bannable offense to say that both those things could possibly be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trump loved that pig blood thing. Yeah, it originated. The first people to do it were American troops fighting Muslims in the Philippines.
What?
And also during the Obama administration, a lot of like far right weirdos got into it as a way to like talk about how much they hated Muslims.
Yeah. I remember that part.
That's the thing that, just keep in mind, this is always the thing in my head because I studied Islamophobia. That was like my master's thesis, so it's like always on my mind. Speaking of racism, also this weekend fucking sucked.
Yeah, because Tucker Carlson and his like white nationalist rhetoric is just too powerful, apparently.
Yeah, it's
like too popular.
Yeah, I don't want to go on for too long because like I don't know if two white people should be making the mass murder of a bunch of people of color into content, but oh man, that was not a good time. Yeah, the whole thing in Buffalo is just awful. I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't have
the
much
thing
more
that's
to say
kind of frustrating though.
I hate it.
Yeah. It like and I agree with what you're saying. The thing that's like so extremely frustrating is that like was it like the day after the tragedy when Tucker Carlson just went and said like, where is the far right like violence? Like there is none. Like just blatantly being openly essentially fascistic, just excusing violence or like hiding violence, because he's a fucking fascist.
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
The founder of Stormfront watches Tucker Carlson and takes notes. His son has literally pointed this out. Another thing that happened, this happened in Canada, is that because Ontario, the biggest province, is going through an election, that's the one I live in, the leader of our federal Social Democratic Party, whose name is Jagmeet Singh, went...
Oh, I know about him.
Yeah, he went on. He's helping try to get Andrea Horwath elected because there might be possible that we'll get a extremely soft Social Democratic premier instead of Doug Ford. Unlikely because the Liberals are going to take just enough seats to ensure the Conservatives win, but that's Canadian politics in a nutshell. But he got accosted by a racist mob that were mad that he was... specifically mad that he was wearing a mask in public, which is like super, super fun. But yeah, just remember how what's it called? Remember that whole thing about like that whole idea we grew up with the like, you know, the world's getting better and that civil rights are on a progressive thing and that things don't go backwards. Oh, and yeah, also abortion's gonna be illegal in America. Jesus Christ, like, there's too much.
Yeah, fucking Mitch McConnell being like, it's possible that we could ban it nationwide. Bro.
And if I also recall, there's like a big, what's it called? Big backslide on trans rights going on in America too.
Oh yeah, like, state after state is like essentially banning like trans healthcare for anyone under 18. In some cases, they arguing up to the age of 25 because that's when the brain stops developing. Which essentially means, like literally means, taking away people's like essentially sovereignty, or like adult. I don't remember what the word is, but like being like
Bodily autonomy.
yeah, like being able to like be an adult.
Yeah.
America, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm going to lose my mind a little bit regarding all of the like how everything is getting worse all the time. There's this meme that I saw like going around on Twitter, just being like a man in a gas mask on the back of a truck, just being like, "Listen, friend, I know it's scary right now, but hang in there, because it's gonna get a whole lot worse."
I just need clown makeup so bad right now. I'm just Jokerifying so badly.
Yeah. God, I saw a shirt like with the Joker, and I considered getting it for posting, but
Just like how I have the onions like haha yes as a mug.
Yes. God, I need that mug. That's a good mug.
It is a good mug. All right, let's see. We got
Society.
Let's get a third question here. What's your opinion on the anti-work movement? What does the movement do right, and what does it do wrong, in your opinion?
It does right to. I've seen the anti-work movement. I've heard something about it. They got a lot of traction for a while, and then they had a really really awkward Fox News interview, and then it sort of like petered out. But they're still around. They're still growing. They're great. They're like I love the fact that they're talking about like work as something that you're not supposed to do. Like that work is not pleasurable, which is like a very foundational part of like traditional leftism, in the sense that like we want to like avoid doing work as much as possible. We want to get more like leisure time. We want to improve like people's standard of living. We don't necessarily want to work. And I think that that's pretty good. Or like if we have to work, we have to have like good working conditions, and that's also like a big part of what they're talking about. I think they're doing that right, because America is lost in the sauce of like a loving work, like love the work. But what they're doing wrong, I think, is they're not connecting it enough to traditional leftism. It's very sort of like vague ideas about like work opinion. Bad working conditions, bad. Good working conditions, good. But it needs, I feel like it needs more. It needs an ideological framework, and that framework are various kinds of like leftism or communism or anarchism. Like there are things that they could build this into, but right now I think it's just like mobilizing people to sort of be aware that like there is a problem. So.
Now,
good movement. I like it.
Is my mind escaping me, or did you make a video on this topic like a while back?
I did. I made a video on the video. I made a video about the topic that we are working too much.
Yeah.
But like even in the 1800s, they were like, they were like 8-hour workday, like. Is that too much? Like that was a compromise. The 8-hour work was a compromise solution in the 1800s. Now, we have the technology, and we have the wealth and resources to work significantly less, and maintain a similar standard of living.
Yes.
But yes, I made a video about that. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think like anti-work has a long history in anarchist circles, and also for a lot of different like, you know, the rights of a lot of people that your ability to perform labor should not be tied to your ability to live a life, and that in general, and this is sort of a thing that that is sort of my issue with a more traditional Marxist-Leninist look, and that is that a lot of like leftist politics grew out of the labor movement and defines itself through workers and the ability to work as like a cornerstone of it. When like, yeah, like the right to, like in my mind, the anti-work thing feels like it's the right to living a good life should not be tied to whether or not you're employed. That's my main thing. And then
how's your cat doing? Because I hear a cat screaming.
That is not a cat. That is my son. He is very upset.
No.
So.
Okay.
So, on that note, like, yeah, you're right that like a lot of like anti-work as it is right now is a lot of people just kind of complaining about shitty jobs, and then their kind of prescription is better jobs, when the real thing is to ask the bigger question about whether or not labor needs to, like, are we doing enough work? And we are not, as you said. We are, like, not only do we have more than enough ability to live good lives for everybody and be working a lot less, but on top of that, even under current levels of production, we are at a 25% plus overproduction because capitalism is not efficient. We are producing far too much stuff. And it has led to us inventing new forms of labor and designing our commodities to be fragile and more like turning them into more consumable products so that we can justify more production. Hence why like everything is obsolete after a year and a half and everything burns out and everything like that. And so like if we were able to do all those things, we would be in a much we would not have much pressure to work. And if we and then capitalism tied to it all, it's just like, isn't like, I don't know if it is Sweden. I feel like it's Sweden, but that you guys got now like a 4-day work week or something like that.
In some places, they're doing that. In some like municipalities, for like municipal employees. So you know, not a nationwide thing, but you know, people are doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, in some workplaces, it's pretty nice.
Until planned obsolescence becomes a thing of the past, nobody has any right to complain about the Soviets with their like weird overproduction issues.
Yeah.
You want one thing that is just guaranteed to make you go take the clown makeup and get ready to go, is the privatization of Russia. Reading that stuff when they were talking about how under the Soviet Union, all of the corporations, their whole thing was like profit was not a thing they had to do. Their main goals were twofold. One, they had to provide for all of their employees that lived in sort of the town. Because, you know, if you were a lumber company, you would have Lumbergrad somewhere in the middle of nowhere where 300 people live in a small village in one apartment building, and they would all work in Lumbergrad. And the People's Lumber Soviet of Russia was in charge of making sure that they hit lumber production quotas. That was their number one goal. And their number two goal was to make sure that like housing and schooling and all that kind of stuff was taken care of. So when they're like, all right, lumber commission, all of these people who live in a small oblast that was 100% designed to function to fill this one economic function, that needs to stop. You need to focus now on making profits, quarterly profits, rather than doing these other things that you used to do. So then, like, they had all of these, like, you know, leadership that had never had to make profits in their life. And they're like, how the fuck do we do this? And they're like, and you also need to stop providing social services for your employees. And they're like, wait, what? And it's like, and then the government replaced it with nothing. And it's just like, just the idea that like there's like these like people, these managers who have forever been trying to run their corporations for being as efficient as possible in making stuff and providing for their employees, and now they're like, no, you can't do either of those things. Now you have to make money instead of like, if you think about it, now this economic functioning firm that was designed to make lumber, now their priority is not to make lumber, it's to make dollars. And it's like, fuck, that's the most Jokerifying thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And also that Russia asked for a Marshall Plan and the U.S. said no.
That always gets me angry too.
Yeah,
Gotta stop communism, folks.
And now you wonder why Soviet nostalgia nostalgia for the Soviet Union is at an all-time high. And now tell me if you've heard anything like this before, that Russians today have this nostalgia for a past that never existed and are turning to a strongman who is into restoring the nation to some form of former glory that is nebulous, that is somewhere between the Soviet Union and the Russian Empire. It's like that Facebook meme. What's wrong with this picture? History is repeating itself and I don't like it.
It's gonna be fun. It's not gonna be fun. This like I want to. This reminds me so much of the video that I'm making right now, because I'm also making a video about Russia, right? And I'm reading this book. Let's see if I can remember what it's called. It's called Nationalist Reimaginings of Russia's Past. And it's made by this, if I remember correctly, I might be mixing it up, but like it's written by this sort of like Russian dissident historian lady who talks about like the loss of identity, like also after the fall of communism, that speaking of like history is repeating itself, like that same loss of sort of like national identity, similar as in sort of Weimar Germany, where it's like how do we define ourselves as a people, and people essentially just like either like making up history out of whole cloth and like turning to whoever promises them that like vague nebulous promise. It's that book, by the way, the Nationalist Reimaginings of Russia's Past, is excellent. It's really good. So I recommend that. Speaking of the thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's and like you saw that in the 90s with like the National Bolshevik Party, whose founder not only was like, you know, nostalgic for the Bolsheviks, but also had interesting opinions about whether or not the Holocaust happened. And then once that ended, he became friends with a Mr. Caleb Maupin. They were seen at the exact same event several times. It's weird that keeps happening to him. Specifically.
Weird.
Yeah.
This was a weird event.
It's weird that
happenstance. Caleb
Maupin always ends up close to people who have opinions about whether or not the Holocaust happened. It's just
a coincidence, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's just like, what's it called? He's just like a Forrest Gump, but instead of like moments in American history, he just keeps running into modern like icons of anti-Semitism.
Christ. This last year in the Caleb Maupin arc has been so interestingly stupid in the most interesting way possible.
The left is doing exactly what I warned everybody was going to happen after the Biden election. Said red browning, it's going to be a thing. And then it happened.
It hurts to be right all the time, doesn't it, Tristan?
It's true.
No one listens to the historians.
Yes. And then all of the leftists that we all suspected were grifters just whoop right over.
Yeah.
Every time Tristan says Caleb's last name, he makes it sound so French. Isn't Maupin a French name or Maupin?
I think it is, but I don't think I don't think he pronounces it that way.
Oh, is this like how? By the way, another fun fact about America that I love, which is the Louisiana Purchase was a major disaster because the entire American Midwest is made up of cities that have French names and is occupied by people who just should not be allowed within 100 feet of French at any given time. Would you? I'm just to like lighten the mood. Would you like some psychic damage of some cities in the former Louisiana Purchase and what they are called now?
Yes, please God in heaven, because I think I know what you're referring to. I think I've heard some of these.
So let's.
This is gonna be good.
Yeah. So let's see. Muncie, Terre Haute, Versailles.
Versailles. I've heard Versailles.
Versailles, Kentucky. Cairo. Cairo.
I don't even know what that's supposed to be.
Cairo.
Oh.
Cairo. Louisville.
We live here in Cairo.
Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm trying to think of some other good ones. But just like anytime you go to the Midwest, you'll find towns that have French names, and they're just absolutely butchered by the locals. And now the mispronunciation is the name.
As is tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta butcher the name.
Gotta butcher the name. But then again, the French deserve it, as we know. So
they do.
Is Tristan scanning prescriptive language? No. I just as a person who speaks French, it just hurts to hear what they have done with those names. My boy, they shot my boy.
What did you do to my boy? And
Tristan's an undercover French language police. Yes.
This explains a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy. Okay. So the anti-work. So in conclusion, the anti-work movement is good.
How did we even get here?
I don't know. I have ADHD. I don't know what your excuse is.
I think I also have ADHD. So
there you go.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
well,
okay. That's the thing is, Louisville has a whole lore about how to pronounce its name because the answer is the correct way to pronounce it is not the way that you're pronouncing it. They always find a new way to, like, if you're like, no, it's not Louisville, it's Louisville, and you're like, okay, it's Louisville. No, it's not Louisville, it's Louisville. Like, no, okay, there's like, I feel like the answer is that the way you're pronouncing it is always wrong.
It's always incorrect, yeah. There's no correct way to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so next one, I'm gonna have to ask you about because this is one of the most European things. Do you follow the greatest thing that Europe has ever done, which is the Eurosong contests?
Yeah, the Eurovision Song Contest. I don't.
It is the only good thing that Europe does.
Harsh but fair.
Okay, so then I guess you don't have personal Eurosong 2022 rankings.
I don't. I haven't heard any of them. I know Ukraine won, because of course, but I haven't. No. Sorry.
That's disappointing.
I know. Like but I don't watch it. I haven't watched it in years.
The only song
I like it. I have shit to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's where all the European countries send a singer to make the weirdest possible song and dance number that they can think of, and the weirdest one is Crowned King. I think that the only based ones I've heard of was when Austria had the bearded woman singer. That one was pretty cool.
Conchita Wurst, yes.
Yeah.
Who I know. Yeah, I'm so fucking European. I don't even watch Eurovision, and I know that.
Perfect. And one of my favorites, and I don't remember which country did this, but they sang a song about New York that has several references to streets that don't exist and stuff like that.
That's very European, yeah. It's like that Italian song that is in English, but it's actually just nonsense.
Yeah. Or like, one of the lines in that song was that they move like computer game heroes, which is also one of the more European lines I've ever heard in a song.
Computer game heroes. What? That is very funny.
Yeah, if you ever find that song, it's called Rockefeller Street, a street that does not exist in New York.
I'll have to check that out.
Actually, I gotta find out what country did it.
Rockefeller Street. My God, what a name! It's gonna be like, it's going to be either Ukraine or Moldova. They are the kings of making meme songs for Eurovision.
Well, it was written by Sven Lomas, performed by Getter Yanni. Oh, it was Estonia.
Tracks. Tracks. Like it tracks. That's like it's meme. It's a meme of music, and the Estonians do that.
Estonia, a country. I've heard theoretically.
I've been there. It's great. It's nice. It's wonderful. I went to the capital, and they weirdly speak a lot of Swedish.
Estonia is the only country that made the very sus decision that they were going to do all of their elections on the internet. I'm like,
yeah. Which it worked great.
I have concerns. I have concerns. A country that is right next to Russia doing electric elections.
Listen, the Estonians got balls. What can I say? But it's great. Again, great country though. Love it.
Okay, now, all right. Here's one. Ooh, here's a good one. Do you have any older videos you wish you could have done or are planning to do differently? Do you have any videos that if you could redo them, you would do differently or are planning to redo them?
I have a video on religion that I kind of want to redo because I made that video in like a stressed haze in like 48 hours because I had like a depression month.
You left that one on a cliffhanger, then never followed up.
Never followed up.
You never talked about your worship of the hawk, the great hawk, or
yeah, because I followed the hawk. No, but I do want to sort of like return to that one, and then I am going to follow up on it. But it was one of those things like because I made it in sort of like a depression stress haze, I kind of also wanted to sort of like leave it because I wasn't very happy with it. Like I'm not happy with that video. I recently rewatched it because I do this thing with my patrons where I watch like older videos and react to them, and I watched it and I don't hate it. Like I think it's a solid Mia Mulder video for that era. Like as a product of its time, it's actually pretty decent. But I think that because I was so depressed at the time, I think I just wanted to sort of like get rid of it and get free, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I do want to make that again. I think religion is an interesting topic, but first of all, no one's talking about religion right now because it's not 2007, and second of all, yeah, like I don't care about it enough to the point where I want to make it. There are other more interesting topics that I wanted to dig into instead.
Is the Haka Borat reference? Yes, it was.
Yes.
My wife.
My wife.
That's all we did from 2006 to 2010. And my wife.
And it was good.
Yep.
Those were the blessed days.
You guys don't know, like now memes move at such a fast pace. When we were kids, like when I was in high school, we just quoted Anchorman for like 5 straight years.
Like Borat was a meme for literally like 3 or 4 years. Literally. And it's back now.
Yes. It was
It's ancient me and Mulder lore.
yeah. Now do I
Back when I was
have
cradling my plant.
was that the one where you had to face a character that you called like the Crow or something like that?
No, that was my video on. I don't even remember what the fuck that was on. But it was about 3 different disconnected topics, and it was not good. It was about money and parasocial relationships, I think. It was a weird one. I don't hate it, but it was a weird one. It like I was going through some phases. I didn't figure out YouTube until like until like December of like 2 years ago. That's when I like figured out YouTube. I finally have a fucking studio space, so no more fucking bullshit. I'm actually making good videos now.
Sweet.
Kinda, depending on who you ask, I guess.
By the way, like a long time ago, we got a super chat and it slipped because the subject moved on. But Matt Lipton, thank you for the $5 super chat. It says, "My Danish friend tells me there's a split among the communists between anti-Putin youth and former USSR employees in leadership." Oof.
Sorry, what did you say?
Apparently, my Danish friend says there's a split among the communists between the anti-Putin youth and the former USSR employees in leadership. Yeah. You know what? Like, quote-unquote leftists stop supporting Russia just because it used to be the USSR challenge. Difficulty impossible.
Difficulty impossible. I don't understand why.
Yeah, so standard European Communist Party things. Yeah, exactly.
Least controversial European communist.
Yeah. Okay, I have, first of all, I started a tradition of every year on Stepback's birthday, I remake a video that I have regrets about making. My last September, I made one that was a remake of my first video and how I was wrong, which I thought was good.
That was good. Yeah.
As for, I have some videos that I did early on in my channel when my videos were very short because YouTube was a very different platform back then that I would love to do a lot more on. Like, I think my Iberian anarchist Spanish Civil War video that could go on forever, and I probably should redo that one. I struggle to think of like a video that I made in the past that I like don't like the conclusion that I came out of it, or I don't like some aspect of it that I did. But I have a lot of videos that I'm like, I could do this better today. It could be more depth. It could it would be done by somebody who has a better idea of like writing and such. I think the next one I want to do, and I might do this for September this year, is my 9/11 truther rebuttal, which is still like one of my most popular videos, but I think I want to remake it.
I get that.
But also, I'm getting like mired in like weird conspiracy theories, and I feel like the 9/11 truth movement is a bit of a meme at this point. Okay. I don't know. I want to make it a yearly tradition to every September remake my a video from my past that I have regrets over. I haven't decided which one I'm going to do yet.
Pretty good tradition, actually. Like it keeps you up. I feel like I do that like unintentionally, where I find subjects that I'm interested that like touch on similar things that I've already talked about. So more incidental, but it's nice to have it like be more structured.
Plus, it's a good way to celebrate the channel's birthday. Because Step Back's going to be 9. No, not 9. It's going to be 7 this year. I am
nice.
ancient. I've been on YouTube forever. All right, the next question was, it would be a very long video, but would you consider a video essay on the left and anarchism in the Iberian Peninsula? Quick answer is, I've already made it. I made it in 2016. Longer answer is, I might return to it someday. I don't know, have you ever thought about doing like an homage to Catalonia type thing?
Nah, it's not my type of content. Unfortunately, like that's not. It doesn't interest me that much. Like it is interesting. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that that's something that I could make it to a video. Like it doesn't gel for me, unfortunately.
Fair. It was barely in my category. It was just I remember I made that a long time ago. That's the thing, is my anarchism video was made when I wasn't out as an anarchist on my public YouTube channel. And so it was just like a history video about these people in this time, and I'm like, oh, you could do so much more with this. Okay. Let's see what we got here. While I was away, Thoughtslime made a video talking about what he thinks is a socially just society would be like. One thing he mentioned is that we might have to give up goods like chocolate or coffee we currently get by exploiting the global south. Do I agree with that? If yes, do you think it's a good idea to mention that if you want to recruit people into the left? Ooh. So, drama things aside, so the idea that, do we agree that the idea that society, an ideal society in our day might have to give up things like coffee and chocolate in order to stop exploiting the global south?
Not sure about that. I feel like that there are ways to sort of fix these issues that don't necessarily have to rely on their industries ending.
Yes.
It might just be more expensive, or it might be more different, but I don't think it would be like missing from our society.
Yeah, do we have to give up coffee and chocolate? Likely not. Are coffee and chocolate going to be things that you have daily? Maybe not. Because in my mind, more so than the exploitation, because I think, yeah, you could remake supply chains so that it's not exploitative. Although, I will say, chocolate has a whole fucked up, like, pseudo-slavery system. Not even pseudo-slavery, just like actual slavery that kind of keeps it going, that needs to be addressed. And I don't know if you can keep chocolate production at the level that it needs to be right now in order to meet its demand and not have that kind of exploitative amount of labor. Maybe with automation and stuff like that you could, but there would definitely be, like, I would rather a world that doesn't have enough chocolate for the amount of chocolate people want to eat than one that has enough chocolate but it uses actual slavery to get it. Coffee is also one that's going to be tough to deal with, because coffee is not only I don't know much about the coffee production industry, but that coffee is produced in a lot more places, so it has a lot more wide different types of farming practices and stuff. The main problem with coffee is that it has to be grown in a very particular part of a climate. Like, it has to be grown in a tropical climate, but like on a hill in like a very specific way that is changing year on year because of climate change. And so that coffee is going to be very hard to grow in the decades in the future. And furthermore, maintaining supply chains that go from like West Africa and like South America to countries in the West is very, very, very environmentally destructive at this point. But do I think that those are insurmountable problems? No. Do I think that they are problems that if I were made dictator of Earth tomorrow and wanted to fix everything, yeah, we probably would have to go without coffee and chocolate until we can figure out a new way to manage global supply chain. But that's a different topic. And yeah, there's the other thing people have talked, like we could deliver stuff, so we could design stuff so that like coffee could grow. We could like make tropical greenhouses that grow coffee and chocolate. Be more difficult, but it is a thing you could do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like in our ideal society, we can. I'm looking forward to when we invent that white material that all futuristic cities are made out of, because then we can just grow coffee like fucking anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, people grow wine in Sweden. They're not. That's a crime against God, if anything. Like if we can do that, surely we can grow a coffee bean.
But I do think that in general, we have a global food supply that is very unsustainable and relies on a ton of exploitation, so that everybody has access to like every single piece of produce all year round, and that is not the way. Like, that is not a thing that we can maintain right now. Like, you should. The fact that people are like not aware what seasons things grow in shows that we are a highly diseased society at this point. But that's much more. That's a more complex thing. The next question though is that if this answer is yes, do you think it's a good idea to mention it if you want to recruit people to the left? So should you mention that, an ideal society might not have coffee for a while?
No.
No, that's the second meeting. Yeah, you don't want to cover that in the first meeting, that's for sure.
Yeah. But I'm also like, why is that mentioned? Like it's an unfortunate consequence of it could potentially be an unfortunate consequence of the actions that we needed to take. But like, why do we need to talk about that?
Yeah.
Like there's a part of me that's just like, talk about the positives. Why, like, are we gonna talk about like there in an ideal society you may have to take the bus? And it's like, okay.
But the bus will be based as hell, so...
Yeah, the bus will be based as hell. Yeah, we're not going to eat chocolate, but we're going to eat, like, good-ass soy. And you don't have to pay for it, and there will be baby formula.
Yeah, like, I think that focusing on, like, you won't have chocolate is less of a good tactic to go down than, like, focusing on how you won't have to work yourself to death. Under a leftist... utopic society, if we lived in an actual society, we would be in a much like our life would be a lot less stressful. We would be way happier. We would have a lot more personal relationships, and overall, like, we just like there are so many myriad ways in which life would be better that focusing on these kind of like sacrifices. And in many ways, focusing on those sacrifices without changing the systematic stuff underneath is a performative practice that's not going to accomplish anything in our current state. So, like, don't not eat chocolate because capitalism has made chocolate this unsustainable bad thing. It's like, you're not going to make a dent at this point. But that's that's the way that I would look at that anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Next thing we got here. Let's see. Is there any place for reverence of a person's heritage if they are white?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Is there any place for reverence of a person's heritage if they're white?
Depends on the heritage.
Yeah, like
if you have a heritage of like coming from like slave owners, probably not. But
yeah.
Like they're like when talking about like white heritage, like they're like the idea of whiteness is a social construct that we invented. But like if we go back like 100 years or like 200 years to talk about like white heritage, we have dozens and dozens, possibly hundreds of like different cultures and cultural backgrounds that have different like political and cultural contexts. So like, yeah, like, or depending. Like it depends. It fucking depends, doesn't it?
Yeah, white as a category, like to be so like. If you're talking about your heritage as a white person, is there any place for reverence of that? No, because white is specifically a category that comes out of colonialism. It's something that is probably one of the major sources of all of the problems in the world right now. And being proud of your white heritage is sort of a way of you trying to say that you have pride in your role as being part of the exploiters in the sort of unequal relationship of the world's distribution of power and resources. But is there room for being interested in having some some pride in your things about your culture and the sort of participating in the culture that you grew up in and having fun with that? I think that's fine. I mean, I think you still go to Midsummer Festival or whatever and don't don't think that supports colonialism. Just supports blood eagle, wholesome blood eagling.
Wholesome blood eagling that all the family can enjoy.
Yeah, I am French Canadian, and I gave my son a French name, and I'm trying to teach him French to try to get French back. But I'm not going to be like, I am a proud white person. No, that's bad. No, don't do that.
I am a proud white French Canadian. Actually, like I couldn't even imagine you saying something like that.
Nah. But yeah, like everybody grew up in a culture, and having a kind of cultural identity is a good way to tie yourself to, have stakes in your community, and to, like, in many ways, it just gives humanity flavor, and I like flavor.
Yep.
I like that Mia's related to hairy blonde warriors who sailed across the Baltic to steal gold from monks. That is cool. And now you bury fish in the backyard and think about it. How else could have we ever gotten to the point where it's considered not only edible but
a delicacy,
haute cuisine to take fish and cover it with lye so that it basically melts in all the caustic thing, and then be like, not only am I going to bury it in lye like it's a freaking victim of John Wayne Gacy, but I'm going to bury it in the backyard for weeks until Christmas time, in which we will then take that and intentionally put it in our mouths.
Like freaking John Wayne Gacy. Christ.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fish soap.
I just wish we could
fish into soap and they eat it.
It's great.
Or yeah,
I prefer the rotten fish with no lye.
Yeah, how could we live in a world where Sweden doesn't do horrible things to fish, without culture?
That is a legacy worth preserving. Horrible fish culture, But as with any heritage, I think it's important to, obviously you can sort of venerate the good parts and also be conscious of the bad parts, and I think that's true of any culture.
Yeah, and that's fine, because without culture we would be a very boring society. I don't want any weird Vulcan society where. I'm all for embracing diversity in all of its forms, including cultural diversity. So, go culture. But yeah, if it's racial pride, no. We white people have had quite enough of that. Thank you. Let's not do that anymore. Fish with soap? What? No. What you do is you take fish and you put lye on it, which is part of the process of making soap. Then you put it in the backyard and you bury it until Christmas time. Now the lye interacts with the fish so that it has kind of the consistency of jelly and tastes like ammonia, reportedly. And then they take that and they eat it. Intentionally. They intentionally put it in their mouth.
Yes.
Doesn't it just taste like ammonia?
We don't have to. We choose to do it.
Yeah. And just and that's not even the weirdest Scandinavian food. I know what Icelanders eat. They're I'm just going to have a nice little puffin heart. And then I'm going to make a soup out of shark that is poisonous. So we have to boil it for 3 hours to get the poison out of the shark flesh. And then we will put that in our face.
No. The thing you do is you put it into the ground encased in its own urine. And then you boil it for 3 hours. And you keep it in the ground encased in its own urine for about 6 months, and then you boil it for 3 hours to get the urine out, and then you eat it.
I feel like at the
delicious
at the Scandinavian picnic, the Icelanders are the weird cousin.
Kinda.
They're that is gross what you do to that fish. Now here, have some of this ammonia jellyfish.
Have some of this accursed fish in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the police should come in and figure out what something needs to be done about what the Scandinavians are doing to fish.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Tristan forgot surströmming. No, we talked about how it's not fermented. It's just rotten fish in a can that you eat.
Rotten.
That you then are like, I'm going to
disgusting
put this
fish.
on flatbread with onions.
And you're gonna love it. Eat your fish.
Oh man. Would you all prefer some blood sausage? Oh god. That's the most British thing ever, where they take like oats and then they put blood in the oats, and then the oats suck up the blood, and then they put that in sausage casing and then eat it. So, you know, I have a feeling that like in every culture, what your culture calls cuisine is what every other culture thinks sounds fucked up.
Yes.
Like, look, Quebec invented a thing where we just took all of the greasiest things in the kitchen and put it together for drunk people, and now everybody's going crazy for it.
The poutine.
Yes.
See, that's what I don't get. I still don't fully understand what it is.
It is French fries. So frites. Then you put cheese curds. So poutine has cheese curds, not cheese curds, which is like, you know, the sort of like part of making cheese where it's like hard and squeaky almost when you eat it.
Oh, like halloumi, yeah.
Halloumi is like is kind of close to what you're getting at, but yeah, that like it's hard squeaky cheese. You put chunks of that in there, and then you pour on brown sauce, not gravy, but it's basically like gravy without the thickening agents, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably designed by some Greek guy to feed at 4 a.m. to drunk people. And now it is a delicacy.
And they loved it.
Yeah. Apparently it's according to my in-laws, it has arrived in America, and the day when it arrives in America, I knew this day would come. Cuz it's like tailor-made for the Americans.
God.
Although they don't really have as much. They have lots of cheese. They don't have things like cheese curds.
No, I don't know. I don't know enough about American cuisine.
I
know they eat pickles a lot. That's all I know.
It's all over the place. Depends upon where you are. They have a lot of different regional cuisines. Some of it's amazing, but some of it is from the Midwest instead. I've been at a Midwestern barbecue where they had 3 different types of salad. Not one of them included lettuce, but one did include marshmallows.
Oh, that's yeah. I've heard about this truly cursed experience.
Oh yeah, I've had some cursed things called salads.
Yeah, nah.
The wildest things about these quote-unquote salads is that many of them are flat-out desserts, but because they're called salads, you just have it like with your main course. Like one that's got like grapes and marshmallow fluff and cream cheese and brown sugar, which sounds like a legit dessert, but it's just like a thing you put on your side of with your other things. It's wild. The Midwest is wild.
Doesn't sound real.
Mm-hmm. Isn't there a massive cheese bunker with billions of dollars worth of cheese as a stockpile? Yes, because the U.S. wants to keep wants to buy domestic production of cheese, but they don't want to crash the price. So the U.S. government buys tons and tons and tons of cheese from American farmers every year, and they bury it in a cave.
Of course, this makes perfect sense.
Because America is the country of the free market and capitalism. It's pretty wild. Okay. Let's see what the next picture is. Our next question. So you know how
the next picture. We're watching a PowerPoint.
Yes. Next PowerPoint. So you know how you're not letting your son on social media until he's old enough to understand what that means? Yes. Kind of. Do you think that should be the law? Like, do you think it should be illegal to just tweet out pictures of your 3-year-old to everyone on Earth?
Yes.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
To an extent, yes. I mean, I would say that because your stuff being on the internet has a lot more significance than we think it does, and children can't consent to having their pictures on the internet, which I think is a problem. I also, though, am especially on board about it because as a content creator, I regularly receive threats on my life. And if they were to say, know my son's name or what he looks like, that is not a thing I would like for people who want me to die to have. And, with my, I'm a Q-list celebrity, so I have to, I want to make sure that he has privacy and stuff like that, because, if some random person posted a picture of their 3-year-old on social media, that's whatever. With somebody who has a bit of an audience does it, then, that I feel like there's a qualitative difference there, even though, at the end of the day, you should not post pictures. The way that we do it, because I've been taking hundreds of pictures of my baby because he is the cutest baby on the planet. And that I've made a private photo album that I have given friends links to so they can keep up to date with all this stuff. Mia has a link to it. You have seen all of the baby pictures.
I have seen all the baby pictures.
You can attest that he is very cute.
Yes. Seconded.
Yeah. Oh, I know that I hate when parents do this, so I won't do this very much. But he's just this week now getting into the thing where he can go he's just starting to figure that out. And I know that he's a few days away from that being the only thing he wants to do ever. Right now he's at the grabby phase, so he will, if you have long hair or glasses, they're gone.
Yeah.
Every day I have tons of little fingerprints on my glasses. It's
Awesome.
Pretty great. It's pretty great, yeah.
Next up, I think, is the breaky phase. Because my mom would tell me about this a lot when I was a baby, that I would first have the grabby phase where I would grab glasses, and then it comes the breaky phase where you grab glasses and then you break them.
Oh no. I don't want that.
It will happen.
How are the cats with him? The cats almost don't act like he exists. They sniffed him a few times when he first arrived, and now they kind of just ignore him. Although this morning I was holding the baby and Romeo was beside me on the couch, and the baby reached over and started petting the cat with his little baby hand. So
my heart.
Something's going to start happening with that. Which means it's going to be the next thing is obviously pulling the hair and pissing off the cat. That's the obvious next step in that process. Because babies.
Babies.
All right. Next question we got here is, why do we still have to read texts from long dead authors even when many of the big ideas have proven enormously flawed? Oh man. Oh, this
because it's good to know what is flawed and what isn't.
Yeah.
You need to understand you need to understand what does not work in order so you can do something that does work.
Mm-hmm. This makes me feel on blast because I just keep copies because copies of The Conquest of Bread are very cheap, and I regularly just have several in my house that I just give to people. I had 2 friends over this weekend that are probably somewhere from liberals to democratic socialists, and I gave them each a copy of The Conquest of Bread, and I'm like, now we play the waiting game.
It's a good book.
It is. Bread book good. But yeah, I think that understanding ideas and their origins is important. I do have some issues with how the left has some has kind of an inappropriate amount of reverence for sort of the major figures of left-wing past. I don't think that Marx is a smart guy. He was smart about a lot of things. He's also not Jesus. He was a philosopher, a really pedantic and angry one at that. and that there are that he was incomplete. He predicted a lot of things that didn't come true. But like, while he is the origin of a lot of our current understanding of politics, he's not the end, and we should definitely like not cite him like he's like chapter and verse in canon or something.
Mm-hmm. But he is Santa Claus.
That is true. Abdullah Asalan, I need to read his stuff.
Oh, it's good work. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. Right-wing societies are the ones that worship heroes. I wish to not have heroes in a lot of ways. All right. What do we got next here? Let's see if we can do one more question. We were like low on questions, and then we got some very good riffing in, so I think we're good.
Sometimes you need riffing.
Yeah. Why were there so many responses from the left about Ukraine that followed realism? It seemed a lot of people thought that the problem there was just from Ukraine joining a different sphere of influence. So, yeah, why were people talking about why were leftists talking about realism, which is realism is usually it's like the politics of like Hindenburg or okay. Reset.
We're talking about like realpolitik.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Realism
okay.
is usually that. Like one of the biggest like followers of realism in more modern context is people like Henry Kissinger, where ideology or ethics or anything really doesn't matter, and that politics is really just different power players doing what is possible to advance the interests of their state. That's realism. Mm-hmm. Which is funny because in a lot of ways realism is an ideology in and of itself, but that's a bit more of a conversation for a different time. But because like for example, we're talking a lot here about people who are framing Ukraine and the invasion of Ukraine just in the idea of which sphere of influence Ukraine is going to be close with, when like already you're talking about sphere of influence, and the legitimacy of these states is already showing that there is ideological aspects. This isn't just like looking at the material reality on the ground and being as realistic as possible. So realism has ideologies and constructs even in of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not conducive to the left. I would actually argue that if you wanted to take realism, which is understanding the world in its like material reality and basing decisions off that, that's a Marxist perspective. That's not what in contemporary geopolitics realism is. If that makes sense. Like, we're not Otto von Clausewitz or whatever. That's not... There's no... I guess like, I'm trying to think of like a crossover of like somebody who has like an idea of Prussian realpolitik, but also socialism. I'm like, oh, that was Stalin. Okay.
Strange.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, what you just showed there, though, is an example of like how realism is in itself its own ideology, because it does have a bunch of things that are taken for granted that are unexamined as part of their assumptions for what reality is. Okay.
I don't know enough about this topic, so that's why I'm a bit quiet.
I just listened to the 6-part Behind the Bastards that was over 10 hours of audio. That was the study of Henry Kissinger.
Ooh.
It was very good. And it was done with the guests were the 2 hosts of the Dollop, so it was very good.
Oh. Still need to listen to Behind the Bastards. I know it's good.
Very good podcast. You'll like it a lot whenever you get the time.
Yeah, like I know it's like right up my alley. I just need to like give it the time that it needs.
And they actually have a really great, because one of the things they do is that on Christmas they do a biography of a good person.
Oh, that's fun.
And one of the first ones they did was a fellow Swedener, who was like this Swedish guy that rescued a whole bunch of people from the Holocaust. I can't remember his name right now, but...
Raoul Wallenberg.
Yeah, Raoul Wallenberg.
Yeah.
as I will butcher it.
Yeah, but yeah, I know the guy.
It's pretty good. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
fun. I need to check that out. It's fun.
It was the first podcast I was told about, and then when I looked into him, I'm like, oh, I am the Diet Coke version of this man. Okay, we're good. He's even the same age as me. It's wild. Okay.
Okay, but like that's literally what I'm saying though. Like that, if you're the diet version of this guy, I'm the diet version
Of Abby
I'm
Thorne.
the diet yeah of Abby Thorne because we're exactly the same age.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, this is unfortunate. But you know what? There are worse things to be a Diet Coke version of.
That's true.
Yeah.
We live in the good Diet Coke world.
Yes. Okay, last question we got here is, I was thinking about going over the anatomy of a character I drew with friends this morning, but are the way we teach drawing anatomy a little too gender essentialist? Admittedly, I didn't get super deep into my art education, but a lot of it is, a man's hips look like X and a woman's hips look like Y. I get it's there to simplify anatomy for drawing, but I can't help but think this is how Terse would draw lines to prove some famous person is a secret trans person, seem to view anatomy in the same way.
That's my video for next month. Next month I'm gonna make a video on Transpiracy.
Transpiracy? Oh yeah, I've heard about these people.
Which is the funniest thing in the whole world. I don't know. Like I've taken art classes and things like that, and I think it is probably. I mean, it is probably a bit like gender essentialist, but like so are a lot of things, especially like in tutorial modes, if that makes sense. Like the way how we start out things. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be like a bit oversimplified. That's just unfortunately the way it's going to be.
Now, what I will say that I think makes sense is that the way that it's being talked about could be improved. But what they are talking about is different types of skeletons. Because usually when you're talking about hips and stuff like that, you're talking about different types of human skeletons that do sort of have a sort of like if you were to look at it in like a graphical curve, that there are, you know, because of the hormones that you're exposed to at puberty, your skeleton can shape itself in a few different ways, and those, like, learning how to draw those differently is a big part of drawing the general human shape at the beginning. But essentializing that into men and women is definitely bioessentialism in a lot of ways. And as soon as you do learn that, then you have to learn that there's a lot of variety within those different skeletal models as well, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's not like it's the same kind of logic that's like you can tell what sex a skeleton was. That is, but I don't think anybody is having any issues with that. That's not like that's just part of like.
Yeah, it's just like that's okay. It's just like it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm. But if you were to talk about, like there are two types of skeletons that you can grow depending upon the conditions of your birth and puberty, and they generally have ratios like this and this. That'd be a better way to talk about it. But obviously, like this kind of came up when we were talking about you just said like there's a lot of stuff that has still a very binary gender and a lot of assumptions, cis assumptive stuff that you just like that is life, and you have to sort of like we can try to move past it, but at the end of the day, there are much more important fights at the moment, like like for example some people tried to give me shit for basically cis assuming my baby, and it's like, why would you call your baby your son? And I'm like, well, trust me, I'll be the first one in line to change if he feels that way. But
yeah,
trust me,
sometimes practical matters gotta matter sometime.
Yeah. So we are actually really close to 2:00. So before we go, you should tell everyone to consume Mia content and where they can do that.
Yes, you can consume Mia content by going to my YouTube channel, which is my name. If you just Google for Mia Mulder, you'll find me. I have a Wikipedia page now, which is the coolest shit ever. So that's fun. You'll find me there. So you'll find me on wikipedia.com. You can also find me on YouTube. And you'll find my Twitter on twitter.com/potatopolitics. You'll find my Twitch on twitch.tv/Mia Mulder. And you'll find the podcast that I do by searching for the title Leech Fest, wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome.
That's what I got.
Yeah, and I'll be back next week. So keep your questions coming. I won't have anyone to riff off of unless I find a new person to riff off of. But in the meantime, let us get our raid on. How about let's raid? We haven't raided Lumi in forever. We haven't raided anybody in forever. But
also Nebula. You can find me on Nebula. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, nebula.app. It's like one of the best media deals. Like it's like $15 for like a year. So good.
It's actually so good.
And you also get Curiosity Stream. Yeah, solid.
Yeah, go to curiositystream.com/Mia Mulder and you'll use the link in the description to get a deal off. I don't know how much percent. Okay, sorry.